All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. Hope everyone's having a great summer. Today we're gonna look at how you can awaken your inner data Jedi. So my name is David Kettinger from Quick Launch Analytics, and I'm here to share the Data Jedi's Playbook, which is really a guide to mastering today's most powerful data technologies to achieve true enterprise-wide intelligence. So the agenda for today is to just provide a quick intro to Quick Launch Analytics and this emerging data Jedi trend that we've seen. We'll take a look at the challenges or the dark side of traditional analytics. And then we'll jump into the solution or provide that actual six-step Data Jedi playbook that you can take away and use at your organization. And then we'll provide some examples of Jedi Masters in action, or some different case studies from some of our customers that we've worked with. And then we'll close by wrapping up with some questions and talking a little bit about next steps. So if you're new to Zoom, there's a Q&A panel and a Q&A button in the Zoom panel that you can use to type your questions as we move through the presentation. We'll also make the slides available to you as well as the recording if you'd like to reference it or share it with your colleagues. All right, so I mentioned my name is David Kettinger, and currently I'm leading the marketing team at Quick Launch Analytics, but I've worn many hats over the last 10 years or so with the company, including 6 years as a data analytics consultant. So kind of working in the front lines, helping customize our solution to different customers' environments. And then I spent 2 years as a product manager, helping kind of the research and develop new products and features for our customers. So this is me here in Colorado. I actually told my family I was going to Colorado to get my master's in information systems, but I really went out there to ski and climb mountains, which is what I'm doing here in this photo and still doing up in the Lake Tahoe area today. But I'm also a huge nerd when it comes to data visualization and analytics, and also a pretty big nerd when it comes to Star Wars. So I was excited to present this presentation last month in Vegas for a Oracle ERP conference. And unfortunately, I don't have the lightsaber with me at my house here that we had there, or my Obi-Wan Kenobi outfit, but maybe I'll bring that back out for another edition of this presentation. So at Quick Launch Analytics, we deliver a comprehensive platform that centralizes and transforms your data ecosystem into this unified enterprise-wide foundation for trusted information. And this really allows companies to accelerate their time to insight or time to value, as well as driving business outcomes that previously weren't possible before they had a solution like this in place. And what makes us really unique is we're not just another BI vendor. We're a complete analytics solution provider that really focuses on how you can accelerate your journey from raw data to tangible business outcomes. And so we truly try to act as an extension of your team from the implementation process to onboarding and training and long-term support and consulting. We're really with you every step of the way. So that brings us to the bulk of today's presentation. So let's jump into it and talk about the path of the Data Jedi. So we'll start out by talking about the legend of the Jedi Knights, right? These are the guardians of peace who could feel this mysterious force and use their lightsabers to bring balance to the galaxy. And then in today's business world, we have a new kind of hero, which is the Data Jedi. And these are guardians of truth and growth within our companies. And instead of the force, they wield data to see what others can't and cut through the chaos of spreadsheets or conflicting reports to really find clarity. And so really, instead of a lightsaber, though, they're using enterprise analytics. It's the data models, it's the dashboards, and the insights they use to defend against poor decisions. And so their ultimate mission is really to bring balance or alignment to their organization, right? And this is ensuring everyone is working from the single source of truth. And so today's playbook is really about giving you the skills and tools to become this new kind of hero for your organization. But like every hero's journey, it usually begins with a challenge or a struggle. So let's jump in and take a look at what that looks like. So we're calling this the disturbance in the force. So it's also what we call the enterprise data dilemma. So many of you are probably experiencing one or more of these issues. So the first is just this explosion of the number of applications that we use in a modern enterprise, as well as the integration headaches that have been emerged from that. So, most companies, they run multiple business systems that don't naturally communicate with each other. And often, this leads to informational silos. So, whether it's, running 2, 3, 4 different ERP systems at an organization, or maybe it's trying to, merge data from your ERP system and your CRM system, for example, and the best way to do that. So the next issue here is really just the explosion of the type of data that we have, and then the volumes of data that we have. So it really seems to be growing exponentially at this point. And it makes it really difficult to organize and maintain all of this information. And then third is just trying to keep pace with the rapid pace of technology change, or technological change and innovation. So you got like cloud platforms, you got AI capabilities and LLMs basically rapidly advancing every day. And so the challenge here is, how do you stay current on all this? How do you leverage the latest technology without investing into hype and the buzz, right? And so next thing you have is really the issue that a lot of companies face is around talent shortages and workforce turnover, with people that actually do know how to use these latest technologies and work with with all of this data. So this becomes, it becomes increasingly hard to find them, as well as train talent for this. And then lastly, this isn't new, but certainly as important as ever, is governance and security. So, regulatory requirements and data security concerns haven't gone away, and these just create these additional complexities for analytics initiatives. And really what we see is that all of these challenges start to create this perfect storm that really starts to hinder or prevent organizations from realizing the full potential of their data assets. And then furthermore, we've noticed that there's sort of this dark side of ERP data, right? And if you use an ERP such as JD Edwards, for example, that the ERP is the core of your operations, but the data can be kind of cryptic or hard to report on. And this creates slowdowns in reporting cycles, as well as data silos, right? So oftentimes we're stuck looking backwards and making critical decision based on last month's data. And this really isn't sustainable. And so this is what we call the dark side of data. It's slow, it's frustrating, and honestly, it can really just start to hold your business back. But luckily, there is a new hope. And so at Quick Launch Analytics, we provide a clear path to overcome these challenges and help you scale your analytics strategy for the future. So I love this climbing metaphor. I'm pretty sure Jedis have some element of rock climbing in their day-to-day activities. And this really represents your organization's journey toward enterprise analytics maturity. And so, just like climbing, it's a structured ascent that requires the right equipment and the right expertise and the right approach. And also, like, climbing, it can be really hard. But the view from the top, or in this case, the business outcomes, always makes the climb worthwhile. So really what we have here is really a 4-layer approach that really builds one layer on top of the other. So the first here at the bottom, you have your unified and scalable data pipelines. And so this is where you're automating the extraction and syncing of enterprise-wide data. And then ultimately you're going to land that or centralize that into a modern data lakehouse platform. We'll get into a little bit more about what these definitions and what this looks like further on in the presentation, but just wanted to set the stage here a little bit. So at Quick Launch, we standardize on Databricks and Fabric technologies for lakehouses, but the principles are really the same, no matter what platform you use, whether it's Snowflake or Google BigQuery, for example. You gotta centralize that data and create that data foundation. And then once you do that, you can start to add analytics on top of that. So when that analytics layer usually looks like enterprise grade Power BI data models in our case, as well as business ready reports and dashboards that you generate from those data models. And then lastly, the last layer here is really that ongoing enablement and training layer. So really what this is key is driving adoption, right? So you can have the most sophisticated analytics platform in the world, but if nobody wants to use it, then is it really going to provide much value to your company, right? So this is, providing that center of excellence and ongoing training programs for your users that hopefully will lead to, the summit or the business outcomes. And this is really, what all the work is for. It's creating that tangible business value, through these improved outcomes. And it could look like, increased revenue through spotting new opportunities or decreasing cost by having transparency in the processes and optimizing those processes, or even improving productivity and ultimately happiness. If somebody doesn't have to spend a week running the same reports in Excel over and over again. So again, this framework isn't theoretical. It's really the proven approach we've used at over 250 customers so far, and hopefully you'll get some value out of this framework as well. All right, so let's jump in to the next piece here that I wanted to cover, which is really setting the stage a little bit more around what enterprise analytics is. So enterprise analytics really refers to this comprehensive approach organizations take to collect and process and analyze data across their entire business. So unlike this departmental or siloed reporting efforts, enterprise analytics really spans the full organization. So it's connecting data from multiple systems like your ERP or CRM or enterprise performance management systems, and then providing that holistic view of operations and customers and performance back to your business users so they can make more informed business decisions. And so what this looks like as far as an architecture, it is something similar to this. So this is really that new hope, or that modern enterprise analytics stack. And this is an example of our quick launch architecture and again, the technologies that we work with. But again, the underlying principles are the same no matter what your tech stack looks like. And it begins with these data pipelines that are automatically and reliably moving data from all of your sources into one central location. And that central location, you could call it your Jedi temple, you could call it a modern data lakehouse. It is really where your data is stored and governed and prepared for any use case, whether it's business intelligence or artificial intelligence and machine learning, you need to create that foundation or that lake house in order to land and centralize your data. So finally, then the enterprise analytics piece of this is really again your white saber, your tool to cut through the noise and start to visualize and tell stories with your data and ultimately drive action with your business users. And a quick launch, we like to view ourselves as the Jedi masters who can really help you by providing you with these playbooks and providing you with the pre-built components to assemble this in weeks instead of years. So our foundation pack, which is really the core infrastructure outlined here, is something that we can set up and deliver for you. And then we also have these pre-built solutions for popular business applications that we call our application packs. And so these are really the application intelligence layers that we infuse into our foundation pack in order to help you rapidly, be able to do enterprise analytics across a lot of these common systems. So a lot of ERP support, as well as CRM, and starting to branch into enterprise performance management as well with OneStream. So this is the framework that I wanted to show you. This is what we've had success with, and we'll talk about as we get into the playbook today. All right, so how do you master the force of your data? Our playbook really provides this really clear 6-step path. So we start again by automating those data workflows with data pipelines, and then ultimately landing those into your centralized data lakehouse foundation. And then third, we start to forge these single source of truth with these enterprise grade data models. And then from there, we can start to build our reports and our dashboards and deploy our fleet of dashboards, if you will, that are going to start to provide that immediate value to business users. And then next, we're going to start to train the council. And this is where we're empowering everyone with self-service capabilities. And then finally, we, in order to ensure lasting success, we really need to establish this Jedi order or create this center of excellence to really govern and drive adoption. So let's start with step one. So our journey really begins by ending the daily battle with data extraction. So, many of you are probably familiar with this, where you're manually pulling data, maybe it's with a query tool into Excel, and then massaging that data, and then maybe passing it on to other users to continue analyzing, right? And really, this is the path to the dark side. It leads to errors, it leads to delays, it leads to frustration, and there's got to be a better way, and there is. And so we're using tools like Fivetran and Databricks to establish these connections that can automatically pull data from our critical systems. And it's not just ERP, it's CRM, it's IoT devices and other manufacturing systems, right? And again, connecting to all those systems and then landing it into that centralized lakehouse. So once you have step one set up and you've automated your pipelines, that takes us to this centralized lakehouse, building the temple, right? So I think just to understand the power of the lakehouse, you kind of got to understand how we got here. So for years, the business intelligence thrived on what we call a data warehouse, which is this really highly structured, reliable, very powerful business intelligence reporting system. Typically, it's for a long time managed on servers in-house that the IT teams would manage. And again, they were great at business intelligence, but they were pretty inflexible, and they couldn't really handle the variety of data that the modern world was throwing at it. Like, when you have unstructured data coming from text streams from social, or you have images and other types of unstructured data, it was really hard to get those into the warehouse and start to use those. So then this new, as cloud computing started to take off, we had what was called a data lake emerge, which is really just a massive data repository in the cloud that you can use to store any type of data. It really essentially any type of scale. It made it perfect for data scientists doing AI and machine learning. But this flexibility often came at a cost. And that cost was usually a lack of governance, which led to what people used to call data swamps, where it was just business users couldn't trust the data that were living in these data lakes. And so what emerged then is really the best of both worlds, which was the data lakehouse. And as you can see in this final column here, it really, again, combines the best of both worlds from a data warehouse and a data lake. And it delivered more structure and governance of a warehouse alongside that flexibility and scale of a data lake. So it creates this one unified platform where all your different types of data can live. And in a well-designed lakehouse can support both your BI, your business intelligence initiatives, as well as your AI and machine learning initiatives from a single governed copy of the data. So this is the foundation that modern data Jedi is built upon. And it is that secure, governed heart of your data strategy. Okay, so that brings us to step 3. And this slide really sets the stage for why stage 3 is so important. And so this diagram shows a common ERP reporting workflow that we see in place across a lot of our customers before they start working with us. And it really starts by having to collected data from a source system. So in this case, it could be your ERP system, right? And usually this is done through some, either process in the ERP or from some legacy sort of reporting tool where you're using it to extract data from the database. And then again, you start to take that extract and throw it into Excel, where you're starting to wrangle the data. Maybe you're creating some calculations or pivot tables on that. And then, maybe the users share that spreadsheet from there, or they use Excel as a database, and they may connect, Power BI or some other visualization tool like Tableau or something to that Excel spreadsheet. And so, it may work for that one specific reporting use case, but what happens next week or next month when the manager, asks them for the same analysis, right? They have to do it all over again, repeat the process, which again, it becomes extremely repetitive and wastes time and money, and honestly just doesn't, I don't think it really leads to employee satisfaction. So just to illustrate this, each one of these workflows we see turns into these data silos, right? Because they're typically written for a specific question or a specific use case, such as, what's my open AP for, this quarter, or what's my days sales outstanding, for example, what's my inventory count. And so all of these analyses and queries and reports that get built, they're all become these data silos, and they become really hard to manage, right? So you got to figure out how you can eliminate these from happening in your organization in order to have a more sustainable and scalable analytics strategy. And so you can eliminate these by instead building your reports against one single source of truth or one enterprise analytics platform. And so that's what we help our customers do. And that leads us to step 3 here, which is forging your single source of truth. So this is perhaps maybe the most critical step, but what we do is we take our pristine lakehouse data, and then we connect that to our enterprise semantic modeling tool. In this case, we use Power BI. I'll show you why here in a second. But these data models, they're what you can start to use to standardize all of your key business logic. So when the CFO or the head of sales are both looking at a gross margin, you can be certain that they're looking at the same number, and that's calculated the exact same way. And so this data model then becomes really this sort of undisputed source of truth for all decision making. And it's this living, customizable, reusable model of your business, right? So you're doing things like decoding complex structures and renaming cryptic application tables and fields to be business-friendly formats, for example. You're standardizing on the calendar that you use and how you use time intelligence across your different calculations, and really defining those calculations one time, so that people start to build that confidence and that trust in the data. And then ultimately, you also want to make sure that you're implementing best practices in this step for data modeling. So it's things like making sure you're partitioning the data and making sure that the data model is going to be very performant when users interact with it, so that they're not having to, every time they click on the report, sit there for a minute or more. So this step is really important to get right. And the Data Jedi principle here is that these are really your most sacred knowledge assets, and really what kind of bridges the gap from just data to information and ultimately intelligence. All right, so that brings us to step 4, which is once you have that data model that you're going to use as your single source of truth, then you can start to build your reports or your dashboards against that. So step 4 is deploying your fleet of dashboards, right? This is where you're going to, instead of creating one data model and one report for every use case or reporting scenario, you're going to connect again to that one, to those enterprise-grade Power BI models, and build your reports off that. And so, as you'll see in one of our lessons from our Jedi customers, business-ready dashboards can really transform an organization. And so, by having this, visualizing your data, you start to be able to gain transparency into different business processes, and really start to make management decisions that maybe you couldn't before. So for a quick launch, we really have standardized on the Power BI on the Power BI platform for visualization as well. And this next slide here really illustrates that. So I don't know how many of you have heard of the Gartner Magic Quadrant, but this is a analysis that Gartner does every year, where they look at different vendors within the analytics and business intelligence space, and tries to rank those based upon their completeness of vision and their ability to execute. So the goal is to be up here in the right upper quadrant, which is called the leaders quadrant. You can see here that we can actually click on this in this report, which is just a Power BI report that I've created over the past, oh gosh, I don't even know, 10 years, that you can use to track the movement of each vendor. So I'm going to go in here and just click on Microsoft and Oracle, for example, and click play here. And now we can watch and see how these vendors have have moved along in their magic quadrant positioning over the years. Where you can see Microsoft has really been a long time leader up here. In fact, they are the furthest on the completeness of vision axes, as well as the ability to execute. And really, that's for a few reasons. They've held this dominant position mainly because of that they've just been developing well above average functionality. They've also had massive user adoption due to flexible pricing, as well as just the amount that their analytics tools, such as Power BI, which is now Fabric, is integrated into their Azure and Microsoft 365 or Office stack, right? Then they also have these really ambitious product roadmaps, which are led by these continuous develop cycles. So if you've ever been out to a Power BI updates blog, you'll know that it's like drinking out of a fire hose. It's just the amount of updates that are constantly being put into this product. Yeah, check out the Magic Quadrant if you're interested in learning about different analytics vendors and what their strengths and weaknesses are. Highly recommend it. Should be a new one coming out for 2025 soon. So that is step 4, deploying your dashboards, and that takes us to step 5, which I think the ultimate goal of this is to make everyone a data Jedi, right? It's by shifting IT from being, this gatekeeper or, somebody who builds reports to somebody who's really just governing and enabling the platform, right? So instead of focusing on building reports, they're focused on making sure that the platform is performant. They're adding new data sources and just doing more value added tasks, right? So the goal behind true self-service is really not to give people chaotic spreadsheet tools to fend for themselves. It's really to create this well-lit template, temple, if you will, of trusted information. And again, and it's really to help free up your IT team from these endless, report requests, so they can focus on more strategic initiatives. So the Data Jedi principle here is really to share the power of data with everyone, and I think this next step really builds on this, which is the last step here, which is establishing the order with a center of excellence. This is where a center of excellence is not just about IT; it's really this cross-functional team that sets standards for your different dashboards and reports and content management strategies, as well as provides training and really champions the use of data across the business. So it's this body that ensures that the single source of truth remains pure, and that new users are onboarded and trained correctly, and really that the entire organization is aligned on this data-driven mission. So but it could be providing training, it could be providing best practices through different lunch and learns, it could be by establishing a community website around sharing what's worked and what hasn't, as well as what strategies the company wants to implement. So we've seen this done a lot of different ways at our customers, but one thing that is sort of consistent across our customers that really drive the most value from data is that they do focus on creating these center of excellences. So that's why we have it as step 6 and the last step in the Data Jedi's playbook. So just to kind of wrap up here, we we wanted to provide you with some key takeaways. So number one here is to stop wrestling with data. Automate, automate, automate. If you can figure out how to automate these pipelines and workflows, then it's going to free you up to, instead of spending 80% of your time working on prepping data, you're spending most of that time analyzing the information, which we'll look at here in a second. And then second is really focus on building that single source of truth. So instead of just building a report to build a report, build a reusable data model that multiple reports can be built from. This will help you from a security standpoint, from a performance standpoint, from a cost standpoint, and then really the list just keeps going on and on. And then third here is really focus on how you can put data in everyone's hands. So shifting IT from being a gatekeeper to empowering every business user with self-service analytics has to be a priority if you want to really start to have success with these modern technologies. All right, so that takes us to the Jedi Masters in action. So I wanted to share just some real results that our customers have had on their path to becoming a Data Jedi. So the first one we'll actually look at here in a second in a video around Washington corporations. So I'll leave that one for a second here. But the next one is around Alta Genetics. They were actually able to decrease their data integrity issues by 98% just by starting to have transparency into the data with Quick Launch and Power BI. And they actually went from 1,493 issues in February to 17 a few months later in June. This is a great story that Michael tells. You can find all of these videos actually on our YouTube channel if you're interested in learning more. But that's a great use case. The other one is from the international group, or IGI Wax, and they've had a lot of compelling results. One of the best stories that Bill, the CIO over there, tells is around how once they were able to create this data foundation with Quick Launch, they were able to start using that foundation to do more advanced, more value-adding types of analysis. And in one use case, they used machine learning to identify inefficiencies in their manufacturing process that led to them being able to reduce waste from 8% to 4%, which translated into 8 to 10 million in additional profit every year. Another powerful story Bill tells is around how they were able to reduce AR credit disputes, which used to take, they would have trucks that would have all of their customer shipments sitting on the lot. And if there was an AR credit dispute, it would take, it could take up to 4 or 5 hours to resolve that, which just meant that trucks were sitting there waiting. And now that dispute process takes 5 minutes, and they're able to get the customer orders out the door really quickly. So another powerful result there from IGI Wax. But circling back over here to the Washington corporations, actually I wanted to share this video with you. This was actually from a presentation we did about a year ago, where we asked a lot of the analytics leaders at our customers what the value has been from modernizing their reporting and analytics stack, and what the biggest impact at their company has been. So here's what Steve Smith over at Washington Corporations had to say.
One of our companies, our most profitable one. The very first time we introduced analytics and Power BI to the executive team, by able to show them the data, we were able to knock down a lot of tradition. Let me tell you, when you can tell a group of executives something that they're not aware of, something that they just know through tradition, they're all on their phones and in the meeting and stuff like that, the phones go down. and its eyes front. Just having the ability to put analytics in front of a group of executives like that and get their attention. Well, that embarked on a first phase year and a half ago, netted $6 million additional revenue a month by just visualizing the efficiency in just one of the stages of the copper mill production. And it's attributed to visibility. So the dashboards that we built, not only the executives go to it they start their day with it, but we have digital displays throughout the mine.
All right, so yeah, obviously $6 million per month or $72 million a year in additional revenue is a significant business outcome. But also it just, I think Steve really highlights just the value of once you start to embed analytics in the day-to-day executive meetings or within your management meetings, you really start to leverage data to make more informed decisions, and this was a great example of that in action.
One of our
So just kind of summarizing, I think the most significant change that our customers experience is really the shift from spending most of their time preparing data to spending most of their time analyzing and taking action. Before quick launch, we see companies typically spending 70 to 80% of their time just preparing this data. But after implementing our solution and really adopting that Data Jedi mindset, that ratio flips dramatically. And so really it's this shift from 80% prep time to 80% analysis or action time, if you will. It really allows our customers to find, that additional $10 million in profit from waste reduction, or that additional $2 million in additional revenue from process efficiency improvements, right? It's that ability to stop, being stuck in a spreadsheet and shifting to being able to perform more value-adding analysis that really starts to lead to these compelling business value examples. So just to wrap up here, let's talk a little bit about next steps. So yeah, I mean, if your organization is facing a lot of these common enterprise data challenges, we'd love to chat with you further. We typically start with a discovery session, really just to understand what your specific data sources are, as well as business objectives and current analytics maturity. And then from there, we provide a tailored demo, as well as recommended implementation plan based upon that information. And then most of our implementations are completed within 8 to 12 weeks. So that time to value is obviously very rapid compared to other scenarios where you may try to build your own platform, for example. So I did see a couple questions come in that I wanted to make sure we had time for. So I'm going to jump over to those. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A section. I saw somebody asked, who's your favorite Star Wars character and why? It's obviously a tough one. So many to choose one, but I guess I have to go with Chewbacca. Other than the obvious physical appearance resemblance that we have with each other. I love the fact that he's one of the strongest pilots in the franchise. I always wanted to be a pilot growing up, so I really like Chewbacca for that. He's also just really strong and hard to kill, so easy to like him. It's like the only Star Wars related question I see here. The other one I see is that a lot of BI projects fail because of poor user adoption. What does Quick Launch do to help build that culture and ensure our team actually uses these tools? Well, that is a great question, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the most sophisticated, advanced platform in the world is basically useless if nobody wants to use it, right? So that's why creating that center of excellence is so important, and it's really becoming part of our framework that we use to drive value and to create these data cultures. So again, because of the way that we view our partnership with customers, we're really actively involved from the implementation to the long-lasting support piece of this. And so we really help you establish this by just helping you, define these best practices as we're implementing our solution, so that then you can start to solidify those and make sure that other people in your organization are adopting those as they either are onboarded to the solution. We also offer comprehensive training. So really, we have a suite of role-based training programs from end users all the way to data lakehouse administrators and data model administrators and Power BI designers. So having these training programs that gets you up to speed on skills is another way that we help you establish these center of excellencies. We also try to enable, we have these regular user group sessions. We also have our quick launch community, and it's really about helping you foster this internal community of practice to really, create these center of excellences within your own company. So it's helping you with a self-service, hub with documentation that you can use, with training videos, how-to guides. And I think ultimately our mission is really just to share the power of data with everyone, and make sure that your company is set up to successfully do that as well. So the last question I see here is, we use a customized JD Edwards instance, and our data is very complex. How does the JD Edwards app pack address that complexity? Okay, well, that's a good question. I'm actually glad you brought that up. You can see on this screen, have some of our available application packs listed here. And JD Edwards is certainly, but not is not without its challenges, right? It's incredibly rich data, but the data structures are super complex and cryptic and really optimized for transactions and not analysis. So trying to build data models on that from scratch is a massive resource intensive undertaking. It requires highly specialized JD Edwards specific knowledge to decode tables. And that's really why so many JD Edwards customers get stuck in these endless custom report request cycles. And so that's what our JDE application pack solves. I guess again, think of it as the intelligence layer that can instantly decipher that JDE complexity for you. So it includes over 15 business modules, 29 business perspectives that span finance and supply chain, manufacturing, and it delivers over 3,000 business metrics or KPIs that are already defined for you, and it's already gone through and related the different tables so that you're not having to figure out which tables are important for analysis and how do they speak together. So again, it's we've poured that 20 plus years of ERP analytics experience into this product, so that we're doing the heavy lifting for you, and we can deliver that value to you in a matter of weeks instead of perhaps years or longer if you were to try to do that undertaking on your own. Hopefully that answered your question. That is all I'm seeing now. So thank you everybody for your time today. I hope you got some value out of this on your path to becoming a Data Jedi. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys at some upcoming events that we have. So have a great rest of your week.